From chaos to clarity. Leadership lessons from the military to keep your mental game strong.
So, hi and welcome to the Firefly Adda, your virtual conversation starter, a platform which showcases thought leaders from different walks of life. Today, we would be talking about the battle strategies and how they would be used to beat the pandemic blues and have a stronger mindset. And it's my privilege to be introducing you to a former Lieutenant Colonel Shankar Swaminathan, who's actually going to take us through this discussion points. So, Lieutenant Colonel Shankar Swaminathan, thank you so much for being a part of the Firefly Adda.
Very much.
So I think the topic that we've chosen today is battle strategies and how to actually beat the pandemic blues and have a strong mindset based on these strategies. And who better than you to actually sort of take us through these discussion points? So to begin with, I was actually reading a term which is actually coined by one of the famous Chinese generals, Sun Tzu. And what he actually goes on to say is true victory is breaking the resistance of a challenger without fighting. I'll read that again. True victory is breaking the resistance of a challenger without fighting. So, what are your thoughts around this in these present times that we are actually facing this pandemic?
Good goal to start our conversation on. Have you observed the flow of a river? A river,
Yeah,
when it gets a rock in its course, what does the river do exactly? It actually finds and meanders its way around the rock. It doesn't really challenge it. There's a challenger standing right in front of it. Okay, but the river still gets her own course. She still manages to float. Life is like that. Life has to go on. And river maintains exactly that. That's the analogy I'm giving you because he does not try to overcome and topple the rock because he can't do it. He may be doing. Over a period of time, it will erode it. The rock will get eroded, the river will have a say. Breaking the resistance and finding a way around it is a very, very smart way of doing it. Because you still maintain your continuity of your flow. At the same time, if there's any challenge coming in between, you're still able to overcome it. Gandhiji Satyagraha is another very classic example.
yeah,
When we talk about it, right? What exactly happened? You actually disoriented the very thought process of the British. The Satyagraha was something which is not there in the syllabus. Correct?
yeah,
By doing that, broke the resistance of that challenger. I mean, any challenge, any enemy, in any war front, there are a certain anticipated response from your opponent. The moment you change the course, the moment you bring something which is out of the context, out of the syllabus, you are actually putting your enemy in a totally different framework.
yeah,
Because it's not there in the textbook, it's not anticipated, it's not the expected response. So the moment your response is something very different from what was anticipated, that's exactly the battle. So without even fighting a war, because the moment a challenger throw a challenger punch at you, the natural response they expect a punch back.
yeah.
Isn't it? But the moment the punch does not come back, what next? And these are those nanoseconds, and these are those vital moments in any strategy which actually make you win a war. So in that context, this pandemic is also a very similar one. What is the soul of the humanity is something which is very different. The first time, as for probably the history of mankind, there's a global lockdown which is happening. The first time in the history of mankind, we are talking about all this social distancing. So probably a response collectively as humanity has been something very different from what is expected by the particular challenger. And I'm certain that yes, over a period of time we should be able to.
I think that's a great analogy, given by you there. So, some great insights coming out. So, focusing on some quick wins and success in small increments needs to be balanced with the long-term planning and achievement. So, how do you relate to this in our day-to-day life and beyond?
Microscope and telescope. two equipment which we have come across during our school days, during
Yes.
our exactly that. Both are equally important. Understanding the micro stuff as well as understanding the macro scenario.
Yep.
One must have a vision. Okay, now let's talk about as a parent, right? For sure. The values we teach our our children today, our day-to-day living, the way we set an example for a kid. And that's what exactly the values which the child is going to imbibe as a child grows up. The way I exhibit, what I teach my child today is a micro stuff. It's basically the day-to-day living stuff which I'm teaching. But in that, what I'm seeing is, I'm seeing a certain set of value systems which have been built up over a long time. It's applicable for as a family, as a parent, it's applicable as a society, it's applicable as a humanity, and so on. It's applicable in any context. One needs to have both the micro and the macro. That's why our role is, if I'm able to see through a microscope, I'm able to see a cell, and with a telescope, I'm able to see the galaxy too. I can relate with both. Right? And both are important. We take in the context of a war also, both these things are equally important, because unless my today's step is good, I cannot really achieve my end goal. And achieve my end goal, my today's step, I need to really calibrate and plan it very clearly. Same thing happens in every walk of life, in every scenario. I hope I'm able to make sense to the question you just put up.
Absolutely, micro and macro. I think that's the right way, going forward. So, both actually have a lot of significance, and it's a very well answered, question. So now I'm very fascinated with certain army terminologies, right? So, and especially the next two questions that I'm actually going to pose are going to, talk about those terminologies. So the first one coming your way is something called as the OODA loop, right? OODA loop. So what exactly is this OODA loop, and why and how is it practiced during this pandemic times, and how can we actually align it to the pandemic in any way?
When you come with the order, look, this is our Colonel John Boyd's. He is the one who coined it. It's from the US Air Force.
Yeah.
He was an instructor pilot, and he was also there in the strategic planning group of the Pentagon. OODA takes it to a, and okay, I don't know why you're bringing OODA into the current pandemic. Observe, orientate, decide, and then act. He basically what in, because any situation following this particular sequence of the thought process and having a loop, there's the reset. It's one action for a particular stimulus and action, and it's complete. It never happens. For every action, go back to the Newton's again. Go back to the school terms. The third law.
Yeah.
Reaction, there'll be a reaction, and that reaction in the OODA loop, the last point is the action. That action will have a reaction, which will again trigger another. Again, you have to observe what exactly is that action of mine. What has translated to them, and again observe, again orientate, again decide, and again act. There's a continuous process in all our activities. OODA loop is basically talking about that. In the military parlance, it was basically to understand and strategize all your major planning. What we call it the bar game. Okay. So the bar room, the scenario planning is basically revolves around the OODA. I do this. Okay, these are the probable responses from the opposition, and to that, okay, this is going to be my further step, and this is what I decide. This is how I'll deploy. This is how I act. And the moment I act, it's going to trigger another set of responses. Take the case of bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the World War II scenario, which practically brought the war to an end. What probably brought the end to the war was this loop was cut. The loop could not be completed in that particular aspect from the Japanese point of view, from the Allies point of view. Because bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was not there in the overall plan scenario. Though the Japs, and they knew that, okay, the US has got a nuclear power, but it was not in the war scenario plan that, okay, that will be deployed. For everything else they had, for everything else, the Japs had a fantastic, fantastic system of decide and act. Observe, orientate, decide, act. Perfect. I'm certain Kush should have seen that Chora 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 movie, right?
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Yeah. A class one. Wherein the aircrafts which went up to Pearl Harbor, for them to come back, the fuel was just adequate for them to fly for more than, not more than another 6 minutes after landing. Complete the task and get back. And the fuel you carry in those aircrafts of the 40s is just adequate enough for you to fly all the way to Pearl Harbor, complete the task, complete the mission, get back, and the reserve you got is another with just 6 minutes of flying. If the 6 minutes is taken care of, what are the other deployment of the US Air Force which will come, which is going to intercept these aircrafts, and how I'm going to take off it? And if not, then the next course of action. That's when you talk about the harakiri. Yes. Then you go the what you call the today's terminology about the suicide bomb. Okay, fine. But yes, the task has become there. The task is I need to demolish the harbor. So Uda is in today's context, when we see, probably we can take a lot of pride in saying that, okay, in at least our country, in our context, we have done a pretty good job as far as the initial lockdown in the pandemic is concerned.
Yeah.
We did take a, we seem to have done a fairly well thing, though of course the current trends of the last 3-4 days is not very encouraging, but then looking into our population density and looking into the scale in which our country operates, is phenomenal, right? We still seem to be doing fairly good compared to the rest of the world. That's no solace, but yes, what we have observed when the pandemic broke, what was decided, and how we have acted collectively as a nation, collectively as citizens of this country, is certainly commendable. This, but only thing is, it doesn't stop there. Like I said, it's a loop. Now we have to see, okay, we have done this, what's happening now? What are the further reorientation we need to do? What are the further actions or decisions we have to take? At the state level, at the central level, at the community level, all these things will have to play. But yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We'll still make it. We'll still be able to come up. But then yes, Toda loop does have relevance in current context too.
So it's actually correct to say that the government of India may have sort of followed this sort of analogy from the army in a way, and they are actually following this, and that's why you see the success rate of the pandemic actually to be far lower in terms of the kind of viruses that we actually see, considering the scale and the volume of the country that we have. Yeah,
that is the same, yes. But the word of caution here is whenever this sort of unexpected events happen, instead of doing the Oda, we do a Dao. The Dao is the new terminology which I call it. For the typical response we give in many such situations. What happens? What Dao? We decide, we act, and then we observe what has been the response of my action, how it has impacted, and then we try to reorientate when it's too late. I mean, let me give you another example of this. Take the child for a swimming lesson. If you do Oda or you do Dao, we'll have absolutely different outcomes, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you decide, I want to swim, but I don't know how to swim. Okay. I just jump into the pool. I decide I need to swim. I jump into the pool. That's my act. And then, what do I observe? I'm drowning.
Yeah.
And I try to flat. Right? I try to orientate, which is not possible. Right? So the Dao is a dangerous stuff. Many a times when you have faced a situation which you are not used to, the typical human response becomes Dao. A strategic mind will always think in terms of Buddha, that even if it's a There's an unknown entity, unknown event happening which I'm not used to, but still, if I'm able to calibrate my mental thought process, always be on a hold up this thing. First, observe. That's the most vital step. The moment we observe any happening and see, validate, and whether, okay, is it a known stuff or is it a new happening, and then you orientate, and then decide and act. This makes a lot of sense. And what scenario, be it on the military front or on a civil front, is one and the same. What makes a lot of sense.
I think fantastic analogies, coming from your side there. So great insights once again. So sticking to the terminologies again, there's another terminology called as a VUCA. And, how can you sort of, first of all, what is VUCA and how can that be associated with this pandemic again? So that's just my favorite question again. So, yeah.
VUCA, the original VUCA, it's more with when the USSR as a country, Russia, when the Cold War set in, so to speak. Okay, let's talk about the Cold War. VUCA actually got, as a terminology, it came into existence very then. The earlier UDA, what he talked about, UDA and VUCA are quite related. VUCA basically stands for volatility, V for volatility, U for uncertainty, and C for chaos or calamity stuff.
Yeah.
And when A goes for ambiguity. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity or chaos, and ambiguity. How does one handle this sort of a response? Sorry about it. But in the current term, while COVID-19 is, I suppose, exactly the same scenario in front of us today. As far as the volatility is concerned, as far as range is concerned, the magnitude is concerned, as the uncertainty of what is the potential damage it can do to the entire humanity, as a complexity of that entire, the whole problem, in spite of whatever artificial intelligence, in spite of whatever medical advancements we have done, we are absolutely clueless about it. And the very ambiguous times we are living in. But I want to take a very, very different approach to it now. So I want to use the same terminology VUCA, but for me, that acronym has got a different connotation today. I want to internalize it now. I want to apply VUCA within me. That's exactly what I'm doing for the last a little over 2 months. I want to visualize. I want to understand, visualize my action, the repercussions of that particular action. Correct my stand. As one of the species on this planet, correct my stand if I'm not doing something which is in tandem or in consonance with the nature's law, and then accept the outcome, accept the responsibility for my action or inaction. Because in COVID-19, what I see is probably the biggest lesson which we all can learn is, okay, as one of the species inhabiting this planet, have we followed the laws of nature? Have we transgressed? Have we trespassed any of the boundaries? This is a time for us to internally reflect, collectively, individually, and collectively for us to reflect. So I want to use this VUCA term in a very, very powerful manner to self, to my community, to the society, and to mankind. Because unless we are going to do that in today's context, so that for tomorrow we are able to build a different one, a different world. And we are going to commit the same mistakes, because also a natural process. That's all. I'm certain you're aware. There are more than 300 or trillion viruses in our body.
Yeah.
Not one or two. The human body is supposed to contain more than 300 trillion viruses. And we are talking about one COVID-19 here. We talked about one Ebola a couple of years back, isn't it? If those hundreds of trillions of viruses are a part of us, it has helped the humanity, it has helped mankind to be what it is today. It has helped in our own evolution. So virus per se is not a curse word. Virus per se is not something which is, is anti-human.
Yep.
There are probably one or rogues which are just coming up. but the system can certainly handle it. What we need to see is, what is our action or inaction, okay, which will not create this sort of a situation in future. Because we owe it to the planet. As probably the most evolved species on this planet, it's our primary responsibility. And if they are able to, that's why the VUCA term, while it was purely from the military point of view, when you talk about addressing the enemy, here I see, if I put myself as the enemy, I'm going to take a different take now. I'm shifting the paradigm now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The enemy is not the virus, the enemy is me. The moment I say the enemy is me, okay, then I have to totally recalibrate my entire thought process. I'm certainly agreeing with that.
No, absolutely.
So the moment you see that I am responsible for it, you also would have seen in the last 2 months the number of messages come in the WhatsApp and all the social groups. Okay, peacocks dancing somewhere, the panthers are moving around, hippos are right out. Suddenly, suddenly the daily pollution air. Mr. Kejriwal has stopped coughing for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
The air quality in Delhi is so good, you don't require ventilators in the hospital because the Delhi population, which was breathing air, which had about some 800 ppm of this thing particulate, today is less than 80.
Yeah.
So normal air of Delhi is better than a damn ventilator oxygen.
Yeah.
And how did this happen? Just because you and me sat at home, just because we didn't abuse the system, just because we became a little bit oriented with nature. Aspirations are good. Again, going back to Mahatma Gandhi's quote, nature can take care of man's needs, but it cannot handle man's greed. So we need to calibrate. So VUCA we need to apply to ourselves. How volatile we are making the system. How much of complexity we are bringing to play and how much of accountability we are able to share.
So I think, yeah, those are some profound insights there. Thank you so much for that. Now, from a leadership mindset context and, winning a war as well. So, how do you sort of relate both these sort of lines, together, leadership mindset and winning a war, especially during these times, the pandemic times? So how do you, bring about, a winning at a war mindset and, face this pandemic?
The most crucial mindset required in any war is the belief that I won the war. Won the war mindset will ensure you win the war. Because the moment, even before the first shot is fired, if I tell myself that I won the war, it erases all negativity, it erases all self-doubt, it boosts up the morale of the troops, of self, and it puts you in a mental frame wherein you march forward. Going to our mythology, Gita Upadesh is a classic example of this, getting that mindset.
Yep.
Let's go into a bit of mythology because
Sure.
that was again a war.
That's mythology is my favorite as well. Please go ahead. Yep.
So even before Drona is shot, even before Bhishma is gone, what does Krishna tell Arjuna? They all have gone. They all have already gone. I've already finished them off. I've already written what the history is about.
Yeah.
You just do it. That's it. So suddenly Arjuna says that okay, it's not because of me they are dying. The war is already done. I've already won it. It puts him in a mind frame, in the mindset, which already I've guaranteed the victory. And that's a very, very crucial thing to have that positivity, because the moment any situation which is not normal one faces, the first thing comes is the competence and the self-confidence. The moment your self-confidence and your self-belief is there in place, there's no room for fear. You have conquered fear, then you have got your results. So conquering the fear starts with having that mindset saying that I've already won. Because if there's an iota of doubt that of not winning, the fear will always linger. it will always have at the back of the mind, it always lingers in that, okay, probably that is the right possibility. A martyr becomes mainly because he still thinks that he is already wanted. He still can do it. Okay. In exchange, he may get shot up. He may die. So be it. But till that last breath, his belief is that he has won it. He has accomplished his mission. So the belief of having accomplished the mission is very important to accomplish the mission. I am a very strong believer in that. I am very strong believer in that karmic law as well. That yes, the self-belief has to be there, and for that the self-doubt has to be out. There's no place for it.
So you're saying optimism is the key to being right there and having a very stronger mindset. Is that what you're trying to come down to?
Yes. It's not a quixotic optimism.
Mm-hmm.
Optimism, but well rooted with a tremendous amount of self-confidence. That optimism is required. In every walk of life, that optimism is required. You run a marathon.
Yep.
When you run a marathon, the moment you tell yourself, yes, I'm absolutely fit enough, I can do it, I have done it. Even if I have not done it, I can do it. That will ensure that you take the next step. That will ensure that you kick off of the block, and that will ensure that you hit the final. The moment you see yourself standing on the podium, that's probably one of the finest ones which this chap said, or somebody else said. He said every race, he said, how do you do it? He said every race I see that at the end of the day, I'm there at the podium on number one. I've seen myself on the podium, so I'm going to be there on the podium. Destiny works around your beliefs. What the correct Iqbal said, na? Muhammad Iqbal had said, na? खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या. Your destiny is decided based on your beliefs. The moment I believe that yes, I have done it, yes, my destiny will be written that yes, I have done it. I have accomplished it.
Absolutely.
So that's my most important. That's my
absolutely. Absolutely. There's some great insights there. Now, from a stronger mindset perspective, are there any other practices that one should actually follow, beyond what you actually mentioned?
Believe in the karmic law. Newton's third law is basically the scientific way of explaining the karmic law. Every action will have a reaction. So the mindset, if it is positive, the outcome will be positive. Mindset, if it's strong, the outcome will be strong. So the believing that karmic law and believing in that own self at every stage. If the path is known and I know the route and I do it, there's nothing great. To have a strong mindset, I need not know what lies in front of me. Whose mode ke baad, what is coming, I don't know, fine enough. But so long as I have my self-belief in place, absolutely well rooted, that mindset is adequate enough for me to surmount any challenge.
Fantastic. So now let's get a little personal and talk about you. So you are now a retired army officer, yeah, and just want to understand how are things sort of shaping up for you now, and how has your journey been so far?
Journey has always been very exciting. Throughout it has been very exciting. It's not just for the sake of I'm saying that. Journey has been very exciting. And excitement comes from what? Risk, from thrills, from uncertainty. It's something like riding the rapids. Rapid 5 and 4 is where the real life is.
Yeah.
In a placid running river, if we just go, okay, fine. That may be okay for what do you call Amar Prem song. But rapid 4 and 5 is what really makes the life all worthwhile. Worthy of living. And I've got my enough shares of all that stuff in life. Incidentally, like 3 near-death experiences, wherein in 2 of them, absolutely I've gone there, touched it and come back time. So, seen it. Seen it, done it. No issues. It also ensured that there's something for you to learn at every step. One biggest this thing what life taught me is, both my in uniform and out of it, there's something to learn from everything in everything. Anything and everything in life has got something to teach you, provided you are willing to learn. And one biggest strength or biggest virtue which I maintained is I never left schooling. So my learning curve remains. So the learning curve remains on.
Yeah.
It ensures that life is worth.
Now I see you. You've actually picked up the art of singing as well. So I see a lot of your videos where you actually sing a lot of songs. So I think you're passionate about singing as well. So any thoughts around that as to that being your passion or your hobby?
This pandemic, the last 3 months, I've discovered certain stuff. Like I said, learning. I've learned about myself a lot in the last 3 months. Yes, you're right. I did post certain videos on singing, but that was more for the fun of it.
No, you sing
But
really well, by the way.
no, but I was repeating to thank you very much. Repeating to another secret. Okay. I've joined an online Karnataka and Hindustani musical class. Okay, I do a half an hour riyaz every day.
Wow.
Okay. I stay in a community where there are about 300 odd people, the senior citizens, and the average age in this community is almost about 82 years. Okay. Last 3 months, I ensure that I interact with almost most of them, and especially those who are alone. Because I mean, you do. I mean, you do have senior citizens here who are 80, 85 plus, and all who are staying alone. And this pandemic is extremely difficult for them. What I really learned here is, what he has taught me is, I go and interact, and that gives a tremendous amount of. I mean, this is something which I never done in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So singing I never done in my lifetime. I've done it. Interacting with people like this in such situations and going and actually those minor pleasantries, just inquiring and just trying to help them out also sort of, but just sheer inquiry. That's more than enough. Are you okay? Probably the biggest gift we can give. If you are able to bring a smile on another person's face in a daytime, probably it has taught me that. It has taught me to really calibrate. The moment I see the birds and the peacock and all the stuff which is out here, okay, suddenly I've got to reconnect with the nature here, which I never done earlier. And because this thing is, learning is, you're just a speck in this cosmic stuff with a tremendous amount of capability. That has been the biggest learning. The world does not revolve around me. That's a absolute truth which has been very well reinforced. This pandemic is reinforced. The world does not revolve around you. But it has also told me that you have a tremendous amount of capability to actually impact the world. That's why we go back to the earlier thing of microscopic and telescopic. In the telescopic scenario, I'm just a speck. But in the microscopic thing, I can actually impact this world. This world of mine around me, my family, my friends, my community, actually impact, provided I have that right mindset. So it's just some of the great learnings which this taught beyond uniform. Uniform had taught a lot of stuff, but pandemic is no teacher of any less caliber. He's a great teacher.
No, I'm glad it's actually shaping up pretty well, and exciting times are lying ahead of you. So kudos to that. Now, just to wrap up, some quick recommendations that you would like to provide to the audience out here, just to keep them in a positive space. Any success mantra that you would want to maybe share?
Many have talked about it in many forums, but I like to reiterate that, especially in today's context. Present is precious. If we really understand the power of this particular statement, we will make a huge difference. Present is precious. Every breath you take is precious. The moment I value my breath, I start valuing the other organisms' breath on this planet. I start developing a tremendous amount of respect toward every living thing every living organism on this planet, I would have made a huge difference. And that's a mindset which I need to carry. And it is also taught me to, if there is a graph for on measuring the gratitude, my gratitude graph, my score has enhanced substantially in the last few months. Because suddenly you start seeing beauty, suddenly you start understanding and realizing what all things like bestowed upon us. And I see it. On a personal note, I got a wife of my wife is bedridden. She's bedridden for the last 6 months. Notwithstanding, this pandemic has taught me, and has actually driven home this point. If I'm able to still take care of her, if she's still doing fine, in spite of whatever is happening around, okay, it suddenly has brought in the amount of grace and blessing and goodwill from whichever source it's coming to. Okay, that has actually enhanced my gratitude quotient substantially. Because it's not happens every time. And the problem is, at normal times, at least I have not been taking note of this. Sit back and take note of it. And this is the time to really reflect back and think that yes, these are things which are worth acknowledging. These are things worth being gratitude, expressing the gratitude for. These are things which are worth being thankful for. The life is really worth thanking for. These are some of the positive mindsets, because positive cases detected and number of deaths is not going to bring any more surprise. It's just going to bugger up the whole day. Positive minds is all going to be like, this moment is special. Like that's a very strong belief. Every human being has got a number of breaths limited. If the number of breaths is limited, let's actually value that breath. Let's give a certain amount of weightage and value to each breath what we take, and let's make that particular moment worthwhile. So if you make this moment living worthwhile, that's good enough. No need for any long-term planning. And long-term planning certainly will not help. COVID has already said. So no individual, no country, no civilization, this thing, long-term planning is going to be of any consequence. That's what my take is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the pearls of wisdom, sir. I mean, it was some great insights, some that the audience are going to take away. Would really, want to thank you personally for being a part of the Firefly Adda. I'm sure the audiences will have some great takeaways from this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.